All right, and we're live. Thank you for stopping by Indie Dave Comics. I, of course, am your host, Indie Dave. With me today, we have Mike Murphy.
Hey, how's it going?
All right, and we're going to talk a little bit about his book, Deepwell. I am, of course, the writer of Oddity, Madness in the Marsh, which is still available on Indiegogo. We are running, the last portion of our campaign. Let's do my little share screen deal here. And let's see. Let's put that up. All right, it's a lot of buttons to push. All right, so yeah, we're sitting pretty at 460 backers, $22,706. We scaled down the campaign completely to kind of bare bones, so that we can make sure that all of the perks are going to be ready to go. So the book is still available, but right now we've reduced the price to $15. And what you're getting is just the book for $15. You also have the option of the digital copy for $10, and one original splash page by Joe Ball. This was a neat thing we did. He did this splash page. I don't know if he wanted it as a pinup initially or something, but we're like, you know what? Let's just stick it in the book. So we've got so our guest artist is actually doing a 2-page spread in the book.
That's awesome.
And he's already done it up. So we're gonna try that. I think we'll try to do that in the following books too. I think that's a neat opportunity, and it's something that's kind of unique that's going to be in the book. And it's not just going to be like a pinup splash page. We're going to put it in the book, so it's going to have dialogue on it and everything. The whole deal. We're actually adding it in as part of the story. So yeah, so we're almost done with that. He's got a few pages to go. I had an issue where I ran out of fingers and toes, right? Because it was originally 48 pages. And what happened was because of the way we work, there was one scene where we were trying to actually cut it for numbers, and then so he put in a different scene that basically did the same thing. Well, when I did the count, when we did the thumbnails, I forgot to count those pages because they weren't in my original script. So
Okay.
So the book will actually have 56 pages as opposed to 48 of story. So I accidentally gave him almost 10 more pages, like 8 more pages than we had originally planned.
Okay.
So when you get the book in your mailbox, it's going to be a little bit later than we thought. But when you get the book in your mailbox, you are welcome to tear out whatever 8 pages you want to make it a 48-page book. So I just want you all to know that. So, all right. Yeah. So, all right. So that one's, we got that one coming up. Let's see. I am currently working on the outline for Oddity 2, which I'm not sure. We'll see when this is done. I don't know if he wants to take a break or just roll right into the next book. Here's some of the artwork we're going. This is some of my get a sense of some of my writing, and we got some pretty good stuff here.
Yep.
What the heck is that?
I'm completely fine with things like that.
There we go. All right. Here's another splash page.
What?
All right.
With this one.
All right. So that's Oddity in a nutshell. I guess it's still available.
I'm gonna be honest. I think I ended up doing something like that.
Still available for your perusal, for your purchase. But we have on as our guest Mike Murphy, who's got his own book. So why don't you tell us a little bit about Deepwell?
Yeah, I'd be happy to, man. I don't know if I've ever done the official pitch on your show formerly.
No, I don't think you have. Not yet.
All right, so here we go. I usually elevator pitch it as what happened the day the Lone Ranger rode into Deadwood. The story itself focuses on a dark vigilante fighting to free the innocent townsfolk of Deepwell from the evil Block family, while at the same time getting revenge for a huge injustice from over 20 years ago that's tied to the very origins of the town. It's a book for readers who want a little grit mixed in with their optimism, and it's for adults only, as it's filled with tons of mature
I'm not
content.
a fan of this game.
That being said, there is a redeeming story at its core. We're just a little harsh about getting there. It's drawn by Rafael Dantas with full colors by me. The base perk comes in at $15, and like I always say with each of our campaigns, we'd love to have everyone listening come along for the ride. If you're into Tombstone, Deadwood, The Wild Bunch, Unforgiven, or Tarantino's Westerns, this is the book for you.
Cool. All right.
Looks like
The art
this
looks really
again.
cool.
Yeah, Raphael's a beast.
Where did you find Raphael at?
He, like it took a while to get Deepwell put together. Like there were two other artists attached to the book beforehand, both who had to drop out for scheduling reasons. And, like I made the rounds in Comicsgate and everyone was booked up. So I just,
That seems to be an ongoing, because I was actually having that worry when I was putting my next project together. Because I was
Yeah,
like, man, I'm not going to be able to find somebody that's not busy doing their own stuff.
yeah, it's an issue, man. So I took to DeviantArt, I took to Instagram, and I just started, researching comic art and like pulling up any, result searches that, popped up, and yeah, there he was. Like there were these, weird samples of this Spanish comic that he self-publishes out there in Spain, and I don't know, like just something about the style jumped out at me, and I started doing more research on him, and he was working on like a couple of Action Lab comics that kind of I don't want to say full on, but had like a little bit like SJW leanings to them,
Mm-hmm.
and like just something about his work screamed out to me like this is a guy that looks like he wants to cut loose on something.
Yeah.
And I approached him and I paid him to do a test pinup of the Lone Ranger, which he knocked out of the park and just looks incredible. And I ran the basic, the elevator pitch past him and told him it was going to be like super mature, like tons of adult content, and he was down for it, man.
Cool. Looks like he knows how to draw hot women.
Well, that is the one and only Vinny Tartamella.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay.
Yes, which
Well,
of
we
course
already know he knows how to draw hot women.
Yeah, so these are the two pinups that come with the swag bag. So one is Myra Block. She's the femme fatale of the book. She's the eldest Block sibling. I usually describe her as more thorn than rose. And the second pinup is, of course, our main character, the Gray Devil, drawn by the one and only John Malin.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's looking pretty sweet.
So yeah, man,
you got 6 a.m. in there.
Yep. So he was our 8K stretch goal. Everyone's going to be getting his rendition of the Gray Devil as a sticker.
Yeah.
And we just hit 10K last night, which means Raphael is going to be getting a additional payday, on top of the work that he's doing for the book. But it also means that people are going to be getting a sticker of Myra Block done by Peter Gilmore.
Cool. You got everybody in on this.
Yeah, I lucked out with some of the scheduling, man.
You called in a few favors.
I did. Well, it was interesting, man, because like the first week we were doing really good, and week 2 to 3 it was more than just that whole like mid-campaign slump. We just kind of cratered out, and it was to the point where like I was talking to Selena and I was like, I don't know, like we might either have to relaunch or just reconsider this one. Like I think Westerns might be a tough sell. And the final week it completely turned around, And I mean, like I said, we just cleared 10K, and I think it just took a while for people to find the book and to be sold on the book.
Mhm.
When I get across the like Shakespearean Game of Thrones level of like messed up family drama stuff going on behind the scenes, and then you add this like masked violent vigilante into that mix, I think people get that this is like more of a, like, call it a rated R take on something like Jonah Hex than just like a straightforward Western,
Yeah. It seems pretty cool. I'm big into westerns. I just watched the other night a few dollars more.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and I love all those movies. So this
Yeah,
one struck a chord with me right away.
yeah, man. I mean, as soon as Raphael came onto the project, I mean, because when I was developing it in my head, I saw it as very Western, and when I say Western, I mean like American.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as he came on, it became a spaghetti Western, and it just brought this like whole flavor to the book that I wasn't even considering, but it looks so cool.
He's from Spain, so would it be a paella Western?
A paella, yes.
Where?
All right, well, definitely. This is looking pretty sweet. This looks pretty good. Like I said, I'm a sucker for westerns. I love old Clint Eastwood and the John Waynes and stuff. I'm really into that kind. I especially I like the spaghetti, the Clint Eastwoods. Those are some of my favorite movies.
Yeah, man. I mean, as and I've talked about this while promoting the campaign. Like, westerns were a thing that I had to grow into. As a kid, I was way more into like horror and superhero comics.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it was around the time that I started up at art school. I took a film class, and he had us do like a breakdown of Unforgiven, and just something about Unforgiven like clicked in my head, and like everything about that I thought that I felt about westerns just got like tossed out, and
Mm-hmm.
just from that moment on, I was like, I totally get it, and I love westerns.
I'm trying to think. I think Outlaw Joe in Wales. One of the ones that really got me into it, and I really, it's because you kind of like that dark hero kind of thing,
Right,
that Clint Eastwood does a lot of.
right.
But one of them was I'm trying to think, the one where they paint the town red.
Oh, right.
I think it's High Plains Drifter.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was the western that really got me into westerns.
Nice.
Oh. All right, so that's looking pretty cool. And what are you at? You're at right now at let's keep going. There we go. 10,264, 209 backers. We can get you some more, but that's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to be in demand probably, I want to say, until November-ish, because we're hoping to get this fulfilled by February. So we've still got a good couple months left to raise some additional funds, and we've got a pinup that we'll be adding to everybody's order at 12K, and the big one is at 14K. Peter Gilmore has agreed to draw a 4-page epilogue story starring Myra.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. All right. So let's see. Family drama with guns, a savage tale of the Old West starring a mysterious vigilante. Like I said, right up my alley. If you're into westerns, if you're into revenge, if you're into all these kind of dark anti-heroes, this seems to check off all the boxes.
Oh yeah. I love all the books that I've worked on, but like this is the one where it's like there's straight up been scenes and shots and visuals in my head for this book for like a decade now.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Yeah. How did let's see. How much you got? How many of those dinosaur books you got left?
I
still
think
selling those?
we have 11 copies left.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we've got another big shipment going out Friday, and I'm hoping that by the end of August we'll be done with all the current orders. And yeah, when these last 11 copies go, that's the end of the first print run. It's crazy.
It's pretty sweet. I got in on that one. I got in on
God's for me.
God's Fear Me. That's right. How
Yes.
you got? Let's get an update on that one.
You got it. So yeah, I'm going to be posting a campaign update by Friday, and where we're at is like, I'm not, because it's not my place to say, but like there was a production snag, and we kind of had to ride that out through July and most of August. But the ship's righted itself. Everything's back on track. We're getting pages coming in again. And the book is more than halfway produced at this point. And we're going to be probably, if I had to guess, 6 to 7 months behind schedule, or I should say when we thought we were going to fulfill. So I'm not happy about that, but I'm glad that people are patient and understanding. Hopefully October, November-ish, we can start talking about fulfillment. And yeah, man, the book's coming together and it looks gorgeous. I'm, caught up on all the coloring, and I've brought on Adam AF to handle the lettering.
Okay.
And that's looking incredible. It's going to be an amazing book, and I can't wait to get it into people's hands.
Cool. All right. So let's see. So you got Deepwell, you got God's Fear Me, you got Samurai Dinosaurs under your belt. What's in the future for Chibi Comics?
Well, I was just talking about this with Narwhal earlier today. We have our next book lined up, and the artist is pretty much committed to it. There's like a few T's to cross before like I can announce him. I was hoping that we could do like a late October launch, but if I'm being realistic, we're probably going to launch in February. And it's going to be a big, crazy superhero book, unlike anything that you've seen from us as a publisher.
Cool.
Yeah, it's
well, unlike anything you've done. You've done a book about samurai and dinosaurs. You did a book about like future cyborg fighting monsters. You've done a Western. So everything you come out with right now is different than you've done before.
Sure. But I guess like, so I guess what we're kind of becoming known for is like, like the random genre mishmash thing. And so for me to commit to like, no, this is going to be like a straight up superhero book. I mean, there's a twist to it. But it's a superhero book. I don't think people were planning on that from us this soon in terms of our output.
Well, that's cool. I mean, you gotta, write what sells, write what's in your head.
Right. Yeah, it's I mean, I have a few, because again, like what is it? Tarantino always says like he's going to stop at 10 films, which he's not. But
no.
I kind of liked that idea of like, okay, like if I'm committing to CG, if I'm committing to like build up a completely new audience for myself, and this is probably going to be the next several years of my life, what are the 10 books that I want to see made with my name on it? And so this wasn't one of those books. It was a book that came about because the artist kind of came into my life, and I completely fell in love with his work, and he's like full bore CG, and like we're meshing really well when it comes to ideas. and the other part is I was watching The Departed. F it, like this is stuff like it's not gonna give away too much. Like I was watching The Departed a couple weeks ago, and basically what stuck in my head is, do you remember the Thunderbolts from Marvel like 20 years ago or so?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So the big concept of that was like they were supervillains posing as heroes. And that made me think of this book called Sleeper from Ed Brubaker, same time frame, about 20 years ago. And his whole thing was like, what if there was this guy that used to be a superhero and he kind of like starts running with the wrong crowd and ends up working with villains? And it was cool, but it just felt like Criminal or any other book from him and Sean Phillips, because like no one wore costumes and like the powers were barely a thing. Like it was just a crime book, right?
Yeah.
And so like what stuck in my brain was like, what if there was like this super secret villain organization on the level of like, you know, the Yakuza or the Mafia, and what if a genuine hero had to infiltrate that group?
Oh, okay.
And like all these things started clicking into my head, and the artist's work started clicking in my head, and I ran it past him, and he's super into it. So yeah, like we've done a pinup for the main character, and I'm really excited to tell people more about it, but that's probably going to be towards the end of the year.
Yeah, I got a project coming up here that we've already got an artist lined up for, and we're probably going to launch in February. And I don't want to. It's one of those things where we're so early on. I don't want to. I mean, I've mentioned it to a couple of people, but I don't want to talk too openly about it just until I know that we're on track.
Yeah,
because it's I try to keep that stuff kind of close to the vest for now.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll probably do an announcement if everything's going well. We'll probably do an announcement maybe October, November. That way we can get people, because like I said, we're gonna do the launch in February. So you got to start drumming up interest, before that. We didn't want to launch during the holidays, we wanted to make sure as much of the book was done is going to get done.
Exactly. Right.
So yeah, we're trying to get a mostly completed book ready to show before we launch the Indiegogo.
Sure. Yeah, this again, this next book might have to follow the same format of like it doesn't exist unless like the book gets funded. But yeah, like next year for us is all going to be about sequels.
Okay.
And so my hope is that, with like the Gods Fear Me 2, Deepwell 2, the sequel to what this thing is going to be, that's when we can really start focusing on like building the audience and like setting aside a nest egg for production stuff in the future, and really focus on like, all right, let's try to get at least, half to 75% of the book produced before we launch the campaign.
That's cool. Got my schedule is like, like kind of up in the air, but like we've got Oddity 2. As soon as we do this Oddity, as soon as we finish Oddity, we'll be working on Oddity 2, and then I'm already outlining that one. I'm working on my little pet project now with the artist, and then an artist friend of mine approached me, and he had an idea for a book, and he showed me some of the characters and stuff. He's been doing some workups, so he wants me to help him write that one. So if all of that happens, I'll actually have if it all works out, I'll have kind of a busy writing year that's coming up. So
yeah, man, it's crazy. I mean, I know we all keep saying the whole rising tide raises all ships thing, but it's kind of true. Like across the board, most people that I talk to seem to be improving from a budget standpoint from project to project.
Yeah, hopefully. Now, It actually, this is one of those things where the beer flu kind of helped us out.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, we got caught up on bills, and with the stimulus and all that kind of stuff, it actually helped us put a little bit extra in the bank.
Right.
So I mean, we actually managed to do that, and that's we're basically we're funding my book on the beer flu. So
that's great, man.
essentially, that
I mean,
and a little bit of yeah, pretty much that. So thank you, government, for one thing.
exactly.
But yeah, so that's that. I mean, that is kind of a windfall, and we're kind of lucky that kind of came around.
Sure. No, that's excellent, man. I mean, again, like in the larger scheme of things, it's not excellent because of like how it's affected. Like,
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm not
but
saying yay COVID,
but for our specific, weird, unique, like set of circumstances, it's a very good thing.
Yeah, it's one of those things that we just happen to kind of like fall between the cracks of it hurts a lot of people, and obviously we want this thing to end and get taken care of, but it
Right.
just so happened that I mean, we were in such a position where it kind of sort of benefited us. So
Right. Yeah. I mean, like especially being here in Portland, like when we can get out in the world and interact with people, and that like they're either full on or tangentially, involved in the comic industry. There's that thing of like, how you doing? And you almost don't want to be honest because it's
yeah,
like, like as moderately successful as we've been with what we're doing. I know that it's way better than how you guys are handling things right now.
yeah, yeah. It's and it's kind of, especially considering the way everything's going, the way the industry's going.
Yeah,
I mean,
man.
we're not all. I mean, some of us are making really, really good money. Ethan, obviously, and some of the big guys.
Right.
No, and to be fair, I've got a day job, so
Right.
I'm good. This is kind of I'm working kind of on hobby time. But for someone like you and some of these other guys, they're doing pretty decent for for being in comic books. And
Yeah.
I think it all has to do with, you call it the indie scene, but being independent, in your control of all your own money, and you can reach out to the customers on a kind of a personal level.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot easier than being like the writer on some mainstream book, and there's between you and the customer is editors and corporate and the comic book store and the distributor. You got all them layers, so you don't got to care about the customer, because you're not getting a check from John Smith. You're getting a check from Disney or Marvel Comics or whatever it is. That's whose name is on the check.
Yeah, I mean, like think of how many books, miniseries, summer events. Like think about how many things were in active production but nowhere near being released. Think of all those projects just completely torpedoed.
Yeah.
And that's not even to like get into stuff like what DC was supposed to do with like G5 or whatever that was going to be.
Yeah. And and how many people they fire over there? They fire a lot of people over there.
Something like 40% of their editorial staff.
Yeah. And that's people they fired. I don't know if they count all of the all of the contractor work, because essentially it's what artists are.
Right.
They're not employees of DC Comics. They're contractors.
Well,
So I don't know if they count that. They have to, because a bunch of books got canceled, right? They're canceling a bunch of books. They got to streamline. So to me, I mean, they're not calling it firings or layoffs or whatever, but they're just saying, we don't got any work for you because we've only got so many books going out.
Yeah, it's kind of like an unending furlough, right?
Yeah.
Like, not only are we not firing you and not paying you, but we're probably never going to rehire you realistically.
Yeah. And, you can go and if you're, you're a comic book artist or a writer, or I don't know how, even a mainstream writer would do it. I mean, I guess they would do it the same way I would. But to them, it's a different perspective. An artist can go, all right, well, I'll come up with something and hopefully put it out on Kickstarter if they're that motivated.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they can do that, absolutely. And, for their own wallets, they probably should at least attempt it.
Sure.
But how many of them are just going to wallow in their cat food?
Exactly.
And be like, oh, everybody's bad. Everybody's bad. Everybody's mean to me. Oh, well, woe is me. The comic books got fired because of the Nazis.
Yeah, and I mean, like, even at the higher levels of that, like, you have all these weird power plays, like, what was I was just watching what's his name, Young Ripa. I was watching him do his like commentary on like DC and where Sean Gordon Murphy is at with his crowdfunding thing versus where what's his name, the guy that was Snyder, where Snyder's at with his brand new campaign.
Yeah.
And like all the like power plays and political bullshit, like you've got Sean SGM over here being like, hey, I'm not okay with Comicsgate, but I kind of am. I just can't say I am.
Yeah.
And then you've got Snyder being like, well, we're going to hire the political commissar that got fired from Kickstarter to manage our Kickstarter campaign.
Holy mackerel.
It's like, geez, like even at that level.
I can see it from a I guess a technical level. I mean, she would be the one because she's got the contacts and probably has some influence over there. Even though they fired her, she probably still has friends over there.
Right.
With all these DC firings, and I get Marvel can't be far behind. I can't imagine because I don't know how much you watch Doomcock. Do you watch Doomcock at all?
No.
If you, he does a lot of he's got some contacts that up in Disney.
Okay.
And I recommend if you're into like Star Wars and stuff. He's a Phantom Menace guy.
Yeah. Like I was confused for a second because I'm like I do, but no. Like I just watch him when he hangs out with what's his name, Gary from Neurotic.
The only time I watch him is when he puts out a thing and he puts out the current rumors.
Oh, okay.
He seems pretty spot on so far. He did one last week, I think, and it was about last week, the week before, and it was about how Disney's like the theme parks are just freaking hemorrhaging money, and Disney's straight up like he's saying one guy walked into one of the offices and was like, I need the name of everybody in this office. And the secretary, secretary gave him the names. And then when the guy left, she just started crying. And one of the guys was like, what are you crying for? She's like, a bunch of people about to get fired.
Right.
And that's just how they do things.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't imagine if they're hemorrhaging money that they're going to be like, all right, you know what? We're just going to license out all of the Marvel characters. We don't need a bunch of offices and editors and stuff, keep making these books when we can just license them out to other people.
Right. I mean, it's, unfortunately it's kind of the realization of everything that all of us have been talking about for like 2 years now. I mean, like these, what was the quote from the Time Warner guy or the AT&T guy? Like, we have no sacred cows. Yeah. These companies don't care about the things that we care about. They just don't. It
all comes down to the bottom line. It all comes down to money.
Right.
And that's why as much as artists and writers, people are creative people, as much as we love our creations and we want to get them out into the world, if it's not making money, then it's essentially a waste of time and energy.
Right.
I mean, you have to make what sells, and a lot of times you have to gauge the market. You got to like if you go to like I'm gonna say Simon and Schuster. I don't know specifically the but if you go to a if you're an author and you go to one of these big publishers and he's like, yeah, I've got an idea for blah 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 book I want to write. Their agent or whoever publisher might just say, yeah, that's great. We got this pandemic going on. Can you write us a book about a pandemic? And
Right.
it's called writing to the market.
Exactly.
They have people that's their whole job is to see what's trending and see what what's going on. If vampires are trending, oh, we need a vampire book. Oh, we need this book. We need that book. And maybe if you're a self-help guy or whatever it is, they're going to say, oh, well, this is trending. Can you write a book about this? Can you write a vegan cookbook for us? That kind of stuff. And that's what they do. And if like I said, it's called writing to the market. And comic books kind of have to do the same thing. If Superman's been doing well this whole time and making money, then they're going to look at it. They're going to look at the numbers, and they're going to say, "Oh, all right, Superman's cool. We'll keep Superman."
Exactly.
And then if they look and they see, "Oh, look, Fat Wonder Woman isn't doing so well," we're going to go ahead and get rid of that.
Right.
And they're not going to say, "Oh," and they're not going to say, "Oh, just that fat super, Wonder Woman cover." They're gonna say Wonder Woman, totally. Yeah, right now we don't get the money for that. She's not making any money.
Right. Like, how often do we have to have her in print to keep the copyright active? Oh, okay, then we'll be back in X number of years with a new Wonder Woman book.
Yeah, exactly. And that's they don't get it. They think we should buy the books just because they want us to buy the books, as opposed to writing a book that people want to read.
Right. Yeah, I mean, like, this is like a dead horse that I've been beating for like a couple months now. But like there really is nothing that the mainstream has to offer anymore that I'm interested in. I was interested in Hawkman. I was enjoying it. That was one of the books that got axed.
Mm-hmm.
I'm into Morrison's Green Lantern run. I've heard him say that like he's abbreviating it and cutting it way short just to get it in under the cancellation line.
Yeah, I wasn't because I actually like Liam Sharp.
Yeah.
As an artist, so that's I was on that book for a little while. I think I've canceled it. I canceled all my Dynamite books.
Right.
I was collecting all the Vampirella books. I canceled all those. And then, so it's tough. And right now, I don't know what's out. I go to my comic store maybe once a month now, as opposed to every week, because I know, stuff isn't going to pile up that high.
Yeah. And again, to bring it full circle to something like we were talking about off air, with all the crap going on in Portland right now, I haven't even been to like either of my comic shops in easily 2 months.
Now, I watch a lot of the Andy No stuff on on Twitter.
Right.
Is it mostly at night that's happening? Is it bad during the day too, or
it's mostly at night, but there's some protesting that goes on during the day, and you never know where it's going to be, and it's usually of the non-violent variety, but it still boils down to a bunch of crazy people shutting down a road unexpectedly, and you then have to like course correct while you're on the road itself. Like, I'm not going through that. I'm not going to put Selena through that. I'm not going to put Clark through that. Like, if we have to get to a place where it's like, we're here, the city's here, and the place is past the city, like, we will just take the long way around the barn. We'll take the super long way that gets us to the place, but like we're basically slingshotting around the entire city.
I can see you laying a city map on the table with like little army men all around it. And it's like, all right, when we're plotting the route this way, we're going to need, all right, we got the protesters over here on this side, and then we got the little stick with the thing that pushes the guys.
Yeah, exactly. Dude, it's like that. I mean, it used to be it used to be, you hear of like a rally or a protest, and you're like, all right, well, we're just not going to the city. And now it's just become like, no, we're not going to the city. Like, like I miss like our friends who run those comic shops, and
Mhm.
I miss not helping them out, in terms of their business, um, by not visiting anywhere near as frequently as we used to.
Yeah.
But I mean, if it's a choice between going to a comic shop and potentially like getting my family in danger, like that's not going to happen.
Yeah. Like I said, we're lucky. We live in a small town that's kind of we're a couple of hours away from DC. So
Right.
that's like the lightning rod. Everybody goes over that way. But I think
Right.
and there's other town, Arlington, I think, has had some issues too. And
Mm.
they don't I mean, you don't see it on the news so much, but like they tried to burn down a house with people in it.
Yeah,
And
yeah, I heard that. Yeah.
yeah, there's just all kinds of craziness, and you try to avoid it. And like I said, luckily we're not really on the radar for that just yet.
Right. Right. Yeah. Well, again, like I was saying off air, it's this weird thing with Portlanders where they don't consider where we're at to be actually Portland.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's a class thing because, like, there are some more upscale areas around us, or what it is, but our area is just kind of by and large ignored by Portlanders in general, which I guess in this case is a good thing because a lot of these crazy people are Portlanders. So,
Nobody kind of publicly important. I guess I don't know how to put that correctly. I don't not
right,
that you guys aren't important, but the nobody that's public for them to basically protest against lives in your neighborhood. I think I'd like to say, oh well, that's their goal is, but I honestly I don't know what their goal is because it
well,
doesn't. It seems to change from day to day.
look, the sad truth is, like, I think their goals are being accomplished for them because you've got the mayor uh agreeing with them, and like the one time that they went up against the mayor and like tried to set up like a protest slash riot area in front of his penthouse apartment, that shit was dismantled by the morning.
Yeah,
um so it's like, okay, when it happens to you, mayor, that's when you'll take action. um but yeah, like you've got the mayor who's basically signing off on all their behavior, and now I don't know if you heard this, but the DA of Portland was just straight up saying, "Yeah, I'm not prosecuting anyone who gets arrested for uh, rioting or protesting."
I sure as hell. I'll bet you they'd prosecute you if you tried to defend yourself.
Yeah, I bet they would too. So it's like, so now we're in a situation where there's no, even if the police are allowed to act, which the mayor usually won't let them act, but even if they're allowed to act, there's no point in them acting because
Yeah,
the jail basically becomes a revolving door because the DA is just handing out free passes.
yeah, and that's basically why the Stadies left. Was that was in Portland, right? They had the Stadies
Yeah,
there, and they all left because the prosecutor's like, yeah, we're not going to prosecute anybody, and all the cops were like, well, what the hell are we here for?
right. And even our local media didn't cover that accurately, which of course they didn't. Like, so the whole thing was the feds had this deal with local law enforcement of like, look, if you actually arrest these people, if you actually stop these like violent outbursts from occurring, and it's like longer than 48 hours, we'll get out of here.
Mm-hmm.
But that wasn't what was, and they did. The cops did their job for 2 days, and everything was great. And so the feds left, but that wasn't what was reported. What was reported was, "Yay, the feds left. We won."
Yeah, and they didn't even really leave. They just went back in the building.
Exactly. Exactly. Like they're still there in the basement complex, whatever it is down there.
What do they? I was thinking about that. What do they do during the day? They put on civilian clothes and go shopping and stuff.
They've
They
got
just
to.
live in the basement.
Right. Like, I have no idea. Like, it's.
I
I mean,
have
they have
I
they
have to
have to,
imagine
right?
that these guys, some of them have to be residents.
Right.
I would think.
Right.
I mean, they move there and work at that whatever that building.
The federal building, yeah.
Yeah, they got to live nearby.
I mean it, and again, without like getting into like doxing territory, like again, Portland is weird because like essentially the downtown area, like sure there are like apartments and high rises where you can live in the general city area, but for the most part, like everyone kind of lives out in these little boroughs. Like no one really lives in the city, so.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's possible that they live somewhere in the area, but I can't imagine where, especially on whatever their salary must be.
Yeah, well, the feds, like depending where you, because they get scaled up depending on the price of the area.
Okay.
Yeah, like I think where I live, if you work for the government, you actually get DC pay.
Oh wow.
And that's since it's expensive to live in DC, that's actually kind of a decent bonus.
Nice. Okay.
From what I understand, how that works.
Huh.
Yeah, but I mean, either way, I mean, the point is they're also Portland residents,
Right.
Unless they live way out of the city and come way in. But like it's crazy. You go to work and you got freaking zombies pounding on your doors all night.
Yeah.
And then it's like, all right, morning comes.
All the zombies go away to their
away, and then you can go home.
Right. Yeah, it's I don't know, man. Again, going back to like stuff before the show started, like we knew probably close to like 6 months to a year ago now that just because of like stuff going on in our personal life and like being able to have people close to us to like help out raising Clark, and if we decide to have another one, we knew that we were going to have to leave Portland, and it went from this thing where we were kind of bittersweet about it to now we're at the point where we're counting the days.
Yeah.
It's you know, like Ethan always goes on about like, you know, the dirty, filthy hippies, and it's like, yeah, I know, man, and sure that's a part of the Portland lifestyle, but like the area itself is beautiful, and you know, when we moved here in like the mid 2000s, it really was just like a giant like citywide comic convention.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like you would go shopping at this store and there's like, you know, Bendis buying fruit. You would go to like Barnes and Noble and like there would be like whoever on the escalator going up while you're going down, and you're like, oh, hi, and they're like, hello, and it really was this thing of like live and let live, and everyone just got along, and now it's literally just watching all of that burn to the ground.
That's crazy. I can't understand how people would do that to their own city. And I guess a lot of people are coming from out of state or whatever.
Yeah, like there's some Californians, there's some people from Seattle that have migrated down to do this stuff.
But I mean, I see the same thing in New York. You see the video of them driving down and all the buildings are boarded up or whatever.
Right.
And I thought the point of living in a place like New York City is that you have all these cool shops and stores and these nice buildings, and and you can like take some pride. And
sure.
like, you know, whatever you think of whatever, at least you can say, hey, I live in a cool city. And to just burn it to the ground, it's ridiculous to me.
Yeah, man. Like I saw, I can't remember what I was watching yesterday, but I saw footage of even a place like Austin, and it straight up looks like Detroit. I mean,
that's crazy too, because Austin was essentially like the Portland of Texas.
Yeah, and
it was like the you know, the artsy fartsy, free thinking,
right?
Keep Austin weird type, you know. And when I lived in New Hampshire, that town for us was Portsmouth. New Hampshire was kind of the hippy dippy town with the artists.
Okay.
And that was and I used to, and I was never super hippy dippy or whatever, but that was a nice town to go to. There were
Sure.
just cool stuff to see. You go for festivals, you go for whatever. I
Right.
honestly, I haven't lived there in a long time, so I don't know if that town. I don't think they're going through the same thing. But oh man, it would be a shame because, like I said, it was one of those things. We lived an hour from there, and I used to like going there and checking stuff out.
Yeah, I mean, like uh, I think like people who have gotten to know me and like my audience like mainly hear me complaining about Portland these days, and it is what it is. But like, I mean, we moved here for a reason. Like, there was a time where like life honestly was just it was a low standard to living, um, and it was just cool. Like everybody got along. You could tell who had what politics, but just everyone was cool, and like you would like meet up with your friends on this area called Hawthorne, which is like one of the main like shopping slash walking districts, and like the way the street was laid out, like the sun set really nice on it, and it was just you would have like street musicians like playing as you walked, and it was just a cool scene. And now like I can't imagine like just hanging out in the Hawthorne area. Like I wouldn't do it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. Like I said, we got Matt C. All right, let's in the chat. We've got Rare Logic. Thanks for
Hey,
showing up. Geek Hero Bubba. We just got Matt C. Matt C's got a book he's working on right now.
yes, he does. Hey,
He's
everybody.
working on Kyrie.
Yes.
I think I pronounced that right. I know that's the Mr. song. But I'm waiting for Kyrie 2 to come out. I bought that one. So guys, check that one out along with Oddity and Deepwell. Let's see. We veered way off a comic topic.
Yeah, we're way out in left field.
It's important. It all connects.
Yeah.
Look at the kind of people that they call it the Portland Mafia. The kind
Right.
of people that do the
whisper networking and all that stuff.
And this is what they're talking about, eating their own tail. You got these people that are destroying their own city. The Whisper Network, because of, obviously other things, but when you've got that kind of get woke, go broke thing going on, and then it's already going downhill, well, now who are they going to have to whisper to?
Right. Yeah.
And, they're basically eating their own tail. Wasn't there some plan for them to go after Scott Snyder or something?
Yeah, and that ties back into like what we were talking about earlier with like him purposely going through Kickstarter to send a message and purposely hiring what's her name to be his kind of like campaign go-between so that he was essentially bulletproof from being attacked.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah, and it's like, look, trust me, like some of the Portland Mafia types, like I won't name names, but like some of the ones who have gone on record as, being for defunding the police, which the Portland police is in the process of being defunded. Like they had 30% of their force eliminated, and I know there's talks of more. These Portland Mafia types who are all for that, they don't even live in Portland. They live in the outlying suburbs with their own separate police forces. So it's like, again, I won't name names, but it's like, I know where you live, and I know that you have no problem with this because it's not going to affect you at all.
Yeah, it seems like a war on small business.
Yeah,
because that seems to be what's getting destroyed. It's like, oh, they got insurance. Well, maybe not necessarily.
Right, you're making that assumption.
Amazon might have insurance because they're a huge global conglomerate or whatever, but little mom and pop comic shop,
right?
They probably don't have insurance against rioters.
Yeah, no, of course not. No, look, like like most cities, we've got like a Microsoft store and an Apple store, like right in the middle of downtown. Of course, those buildings and those corporations are going to be fine. But I've also seen plenty of footage of, these these protesters and rioters just completely demolishing like small restaurants and small like jewelry locations, and like they're purposely putting small businesses out of commission.
They were straight up robbing a bank the other night.
Yeah,
They were. I know they busted into the lobby or whatever, and I think they were trying to bust into the ATM machine. I don't know if they actually got through.
Right.
But I mean, it's like, you don't even have to try. You just go ahead and do whatever you want. That guy that kicked that guy in the head.
Yep.
I saw a video. I don't know if it was in one of these places where they were just beating the hell out of a raccoon with a baseball bat.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, holy, these people aren't human. What is wrong with you?
Yeah, no.
I laugh. I don't laugh because I think that's funny, but it's so insane. The kind of things that the people, they think they're all against police brutality, but then they're knocking people unconscious. They're kicking people, knocking people on the ground. The one that he was protecting was a freaking trans woman.
Right.
And now they're attacking trans people, but they're still going to call us the transphobes.
Of course, yeah. And with that whole thing, like the dude that got kicked in the head, like that was one of my breaking points. Because the whole professional thing of like, look, don't comment on politics, just focus on selling the hot dogs. That specifically was like a breaking point for me, where I was like, I have to vocalize like how wrong this is and how far removed from what Portland is to me that this town has become. The way that I'd say 95% of the media is covering that whole thing is just flat out evil. That, and we shouldn't be surprised, being Comicsgate and constantly having this stuff lobbied at us. But they were trying to label that guy as alt-right. They were trying to state that he was purposely running over protesters, and that's why they defended themselves. And it's like, no, I saw all the footage from all the different angles. He was trying to stop them from messing with that woman. And he got back in his car. They were attacking the car. He slowly rolled out, and they chased him, and they forced him into crashing the car into the tree.
Yeah.
Like it's not what it's being reported as. And it was just one of those things where it's like, I can't not say anything about this shit anymore.
And you could see the videos. The New York Post, I think it was the New York Post, posted something today, and they didn't show the videos, but they said the man who was knocked unconscious posted a meme about George Floyd, like
right,
5 hours earlier. Like the guy that was kicking his head gives a damn about George Floyd,
right, and had any context for that if it was even true. Yeah.
Oh, he must have been Facebook friends with him. That's how we saw it. I mean.
You're that guy that posted that update.
Yeah, it's so ridiculous, and that's like the first thing that I saw from the New York. I mean, I don't follow them a lot, but maybe they posted something. But I mean, that's what comes out. Not that he was violently attacked for protecting a trans person.
Exactly.
No, and it wasn't even like supposedly a humorous meme.
Mm-hmm.
It was. From what I understand, it was something like, how come George Floyd gets thousands of people to his funeral, and then that little 5-year-old, doesn't? And it was something along those lines. And it's like, well, that's not really anti-George Floyd.
Right.
Just, pointing out. Hey.
Right. That's a commentary on, like, society, if anything.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Like, all I know is wherever we end up is going to be way more manageable than a place like Portland.
Yeah.
I don't want to go somewhere too remote and too quiet, because I want Clark to be able to I want Clark to be able to easily experience a whole bunch of stuff and hang out with people instead of
Yeah.
just being in some
Yeah.
remote location.
Find
But
find a suburb outside of Butte, Montana.
exactly right. Yeah, it's got to be way more manageable than this, and like my family's traditionally left leaning, and I'd say like Selena and I are like centrists, if anything. But we are considering moving to a red state, and that just has everyone in our families freaked out. And it's like, look, I I come from we come from a city that's the number one murder capital of the country, and we're leaving a city where a guy can get beaten nearly to death for protecting a trans woman. Maybe it's time to try something different.
Yeah. Like I said, we got houses for sale here. Go ahead,
There you go.
Move next door. Move next door. It'll be a lot easier. Be a lot easier for us to get together and get some projects done.
There you go. We can just set up a mic and have these talks.
There we go. Yeah, like Geek Hero. Most of us in red states are centrists. I think most people are centrists. Like I consider myself pretty far right, but I mean I'm not so far right where I hate you if you disagree with me. You know what I mean? And I don't even know that I don't know what's far right anymore. If I'm like, I can get with some I can agree with some stuff, disagree with other stuff, and still like get a beer with somebody. That's the way it should be.
Right. Well, I mean, like, look, everyone from Tim Pool to whatever Dave Rubin, whatever media figure, not a part of the mainstream media you want to talk about, essentially says the same thing, right? I mean, you talk to someone on the right about a topic that you don't agree on, and the person on the right will say, I think everything you're saying is stupid. Let's go get a beer. Meanwhile, you say you have that same conversation with someone on the left, and the response is, you're a Nazi, you're a homophobe, you're blah 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 blah, get the hell out of my face, safe space. Like, it's just, there's no contest. It's like, if you're putting me in this position of having to choose between like two types of people, of which I don't believe in that dichotomy. I too believe that most people fall somewhere in the middle.
Most people want to go to work, make a little money, have a decent place to live, decent lifestyle. The average person doesn't care about trans issues or whatever far right. Whatever far right. Nobody. I don't know any white supremacists. I don't know that that's a far right thing. They just claim it's a far right thing. But most people don't care about white supremacy. They don't care about this far issue. They want to go to work. They want to have a nice car, maybe have a wife and kids, or or husband and kids, or whatever it is, and just kind of get by. And some people are a little more ambitious. They want to run their company. They want to they just want to live their lives without super drama, unless you're a celebrity or some kind of TikTok influencer,
Sure.
But the average person doesn't care about all these issues. And when you say, "Hey, what do you think about do all Black Lives matter?" and they're like, "Yeah, sure," because as a statement, Black Lives matter,
right?
And nobody looks into it too deep. Although maybe now that it's all over the news, maybe people seeing it, but it's getting kind of a bad name.
Right.
But in that sense, most people are centrist. They just kind of want to be left alone. They want to live a good life. And nobody wants to fight with each other all the time. They just want to get by.
And that's the thing. Like, you can't. And again, from living here for like over 10 years, like, you can't have that in a place like Portland. There has to be a discussion. Like, what was the thing that Erica, what's her name? She drew Squirrel Girl. Like her whole Henderson. Like, her whole thing of like, saying that your work isn't political is in itself a political statement. It's like they won't let you get away from it.
Yeah. I mean, you can have a message in your book without being all this side is the bad guys.
Right.
That's what gets me.
Right.
I mean, I honestly don't have any. I'm fine with politics in a book, but
Mm-hmm.
when your hero is, I'm right 100% of the time, and everybody else is the bad guys.
Right. Right.
That's when you run into your politics problem. It's not that people don't want politics; it's that people don't want it shoved in their face, down their throat. They don't want they don't want to be preached at. It's if you're going to do politics, I say be fair to both sides.
Right.
Even if your message is one of those sides, at least present the argument on the other side.
Well, I mean, that's the whole reason that Star Trek is such shit now. I mean, you look at I'd say that the original series was more of a Western than like political or social allegory. But you look at the Next Gen, and like I'd say maybe a third of those episodes had quote unquote messages to them, and it's like the point was with Star Trek that even if the other side, quote unquote, was wrong, you could still relate to what they were saying because they weren't painted as two-dimensional mustache twirling villains.
The big baddies from the classic comics, like the Red Skull or whatever, were direct allegories of
right.
Nazi Germany. There were actual supervillains at the time.
Right.
You had Hitler and those guys, and those were actual people, and you could everybody pretty much agreed those were bad people and authoritarian, bad guys. But it would be something. It would be like if the X-Men said that, and I don't know if they have because I haven't read them in forever. Magneto is a Republican and started spouting all kinds of Republican stuff.
Right.
And we'll make him he's always been the villain. Now we're gonna put all this Republican stuff on him.
Well, it's the whole Ethan thing, right? Like this is one of the things that I really agree with Ethan on, even though like I'm not that big of an X-Men fan.
Mm-hmm.
But when you get people making the argument that the X-Men 1-to-1 is about racial inequality, again, like Ethan has pointed out, well then who do the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants represent? Like,
yeah.
Because if they're all minorities, what you're saying is these types of minorities are evil. Like, and I don't think you want to go down that stupid road.
I think it's ridiculous that they call themselves evil. Like
right.
Hitler thought he was the good guy. I mean,
exactly.
We all know he wasn't, but I mean, in his brain, he was the good guy. He wouldn't say, that he was, I'm evil. I'm on the evil side. That's just
right. Yeah, and like that's why the X-Men work when you just write them as they are the outsiders, because everyone at some point in their life has felt like an outsider. It's when you go like, no, this is about this specific type of person, that you're taking away that thing from everyone else.
Yeah.
Like Selena's favorite character when she was a teenager was Rogue. Could it, like, in terms of like the superficial stuff like skin color and all that, couldn't be further removed from her life, but it was because she empathized with Rogue as a character and didn't look at her as, well, you are my skin tone, you are this, you are that. Like, it's that Rogue was an outsider and Rogue had these, personal issues that, related back to Selena's own personal experience. And yeah, just like the thing that they've become of like, well, they are a direct allegory for race. And, in the like mid 2010s, they were a direct allegory for, like a sexual preference. It's like that you're missing the point of what the X-Men are supposed to do.
Yeah. I want to address something here. Geek Hero Bubba put this thing. He said, "Hell, even Arrow had a common sense episode on gun control."
Oh God,
I
yeah.
didn't see the episode, so I can't comment directly on it. But this is, since I'm a big kind of gun nut, this is one of the things that bothers me when you hear or see a superhero talking about gun control and we should get rid of guns. It's easy when you shoot laser beams from your eyes to say that these other people shouldn't have guns. And like I said, I don't know what happened in the Arrow episode, but
Well-
if I met Arrow, up on a rooftop somewhere, and he's like, "We need to get rid of all these people with guns," then I'm going to be like, "But I guess that's kind of self-serving since you have a bow and arrow that you shoot at guys all the time."
Right. I remember not hating that episode, but the thing that drove me nuts about it was what's his name? Fair Play, Mr. Fantastic, Mr. Terrific. He's on the anti-gun side of the argument, and what was his name? Wild Dog. He was a part of the group by that point, and of course he uses 2 revolvers, right? And the whole time they're just arguing with each other, and just from a writing standpoint, I was like, so the other 4,000 days that you've been working with this guy and he's been shooting criminals in the face, you have no problem with him, but tonight all of a sudden it's an issue.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember when I was in high school when that character first showed up in DC Comics, the Wild Dog, and I never thought it was a character that would carry on.
Right.
And when I
Me neither.
when I saw the like I said, I don't watch those shows.
Yeah.
I think I've seen a few episodes of Arrow. When I saw that he was on the show, I'm like, what a weird character to bring on. What a really obscure character to bring on. I don't know how much he's in the DC universe now.
Right.
But it seemed like a really obscure character to bring onto the show.
No, the weirdest was they tried, what was that, in season 4? They tried having Ragman be a part of the group. I guess they wanted their supernatural tie.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just a dude that's entirely made out of rags. So they quickly realized if we have this guy do anything that actually utilizes his powers, it's nothing but CG, and that's going to drive up the cost of the show. So by the end of the season, he's like, I got to take a bus and get out of town. You're never going to see me again.
All right. Well, it's starting to get late here.
Yeah, we've been going.
Yeah. We went on a tear. I want everybody to check out Deepwell, Caliber of Death. It's still available. It's 209 backers. Let's get that up there. I want to thank Mike for coming on. Thank everybody here in the chat for showing up. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe if you haven't. And thanks again, Mike, for showing up.
Hey, my pleasure, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it was a good show. It was a really good show.
It was.
All right. Yeah. All right, everybody, you have a good night. And also check out Oddity, Madness in the Marsh. I almost forgot to push my own book.
All right. Later, everybody.
All right. Take it easy, everyone.